Welcome to our What's New in Vectorworks 2013 movie. The intention of this presentation is to elaborate on many of the new features in Vectorworks 2013 so that you're better able to assess where you might be able to put them to good use in your day-to-day workflow. You will notice that the beginning slide of each feature will have this little key in the bottom left-hand corner, and this indicates what modules that this particular new feature applies to. F for Fundamentals, A for Architect, Landmark, Spotlight, Renderworks. You'll also see that some of the slides have a top 10 little icon in the top right hand corner, and this indicates that this particular feature is one of the favorites that we consider will be most useful for you. So let's get going. A long-standing wish with many users is for an improvement in the navigation within Vectorworks, and here I'm talking about panning and zooming and moving the drawing, basically navigating around your file, and I think you'll find this has happened in Vectorworks 2013. A lot of this work has now been shifted to the graphics card, and this means that it's just a whole lot better. I think the best way to experience this is to actually open a file in Vectorworks 2012 and open the same file in Vectorworks 2013. Let's begin by opening the 2012 file, and here we are in Vectorworks 2012. And the first thing you'll notice is that when you're in Vectorworks 2012, if I press the spacebar and pan the drawing, you're going to see that the drawing that was off screen when I initially panned is not there until I release the mouse now, and then the drawing comes back. If we go back the other way, you're going to see the same thing happen. If we zoom in, everything becomes pixelated until you release the mouse, and in some drawings this can take a few seconds to happen, and things can disappear, and so on. So let's now take a look at the same thing in Vectorworks 2013. Here's the exact same file. Now we'll try panning, and you can see that as I pan the drawing, it instantly comes into view. There's no pixelation. If I zoom, you can see that there's no pixelation, and I can do this very quickly. And it just all works as you would want it to. So I think from a day-to-day point of view, this is probably one of the most significant improvements in this version of Vectorworks. Of course, the 3D navigation has also seen a great improvement in Vectorworks 2013. Just briefly, in Vectorworks 2012 and earlier versions, when you were viewing a perspective, you always had this cropping window around the perspective. It's now optional to have that, and you'll see that in 2013 you can dispense with that and have a much more expansive 3D experience. And this also allows the sky or a representation of the sky and the ground plane and horizon to appear. And finally, there's also a much better experience when you're manipulating a wireframe model in 3D. So let's take a look at these things in an actual file. So firstly, we'll take the rotate tool. Here we are in a wireframe view, and you'll see that as I rotate this model, instead of being represented during the rotation by bounding boxes, which is what you see in Vectorworks 2012, the geometry is all staying there, which makes it much easier to see what you're doing and to get just the view that you're searching for. Now if we render this in OpenGL, so you'll see here our traditional bounding box that you've seen in previous versions of Vectorworks, and this works just the same as it did. But now you have the option to dispense with that bounding box. And we can do this by going to the View menu, down to Perspective, and you can see here there's a new option called Cropped. So if we uncheck that, then what's going to happen is the bounding box is going to disappear and we're going to get the sky and the horizon. Now these colors can be customized in Smart Cursor settings by clicking the interactive appearance settings, and you'll see here you've got the general background, perspective horizon ground, and perspective horizon sky. So these are the two ones that you can customize if you want. So let's take a look now at actually manipulating a drawing in this view, and you'll see that this is also greatly improved. Not only for flyovers but also for perspective. If we switch to perspective and go to a walkthrough, no longer will the drawing accelerate uncontrollably if you don't click in the center. You can click anywhere and you'll get a little cross or a mark indicating your initial click, and then that becomes the control point. So as you vary your mouse distance from that point, then you'll zoom in, zoom out, go left or go right, and it's a much smoother, much more controllable environment for actually manipulating a perspective. You'll also see that panning is a much better experience. Rather than just moving the whole drawing on screen, you actually get a much more useful motion when you press the space bar and you pan the drawing. So all in all, this 3D navigation is very much better, and of course as you go off the screen you don't lose what was previously hidden around the edges. Clip Cube. So here's another 3D improvement that can make editing and presenting a 3D model a lot easier. Essentially, it's the ability to drill down into a smaller part of the model with a cube known as a clip cube. I think the best way to look at this is just to try it out in a file. So let's go ahead and switch to this file, and here what we've got is a wireframe model, and it may be that you want to do some amending to a room within the model or an object within the model, and to do that without the clip cube you've probably got to turn off layers and classes and so on. With the clip cube, all you need to do is to select the object, and let's say in this case it's this stair within here, and then invoke the clip cube. And you can do this in two ways. In the view menu you'll see that there's an option called clip cube, and you can select that option. Alternatively, you can add the clip cube to the quick prefs up here via this little drop down menu here, and you'll see here it says show clip cube, and once you've added it here you just need to click this option here, which is quicker, and when I do that the rest of the model is going to disappear. I'll get this grey cube around the area that I'm interested in, and I can zoom in here. Now the cube itself can be selected and manipulated, so if I click on part of this grey cube you can see that as I mouse over the faces they highlight, and you can also see that there are some controls at the bottom here that would allow me to rotate the clip cube if that's what I wanted to do. So I can push and pull on these surfaces to expose more of the model in that particular direction. So if I want to go, say, to a cross section through that stair or come out into the adjoining room, and all of this works in wireframe and also in OpenGL render mode. And you can even expand a back face by putting the cursor very close to that edge, and you'll see that as I put the cursor near this top edge it's picking up that back edge or that hidden face, and I can drag that out from there. Just to illustrate that again, if I put the cursor close to this top edge here you'll see that the back edge here will highlight, and I can drag that out. And to turn the clip cube off I just click the option up here again, and I'll then see the whole model. Now if you don't have anything selected when you invoke the clip cube, then what's going to happen is the cube will appear around the whole model, and you can see it there, and you can then basically start from scratch and drag down, push pull into the area that you're wanting to look at. And once you've drilled down to a particular area, then everything just works as it normally would. You can select and modify the objects within that area and carry on with the editing. You'll see here I can now select some objects in here, select the floor, and so on. Line types. This is a great new feature in Vectorworks 2013, and again it's something that people have been asking for a long time, and that is the ability to be able to create lines that aren't just made up of either solid or dashed lines, and now you can do that. Essentially, lines can now contain any 2D object within Vectorworks. So there have been a few underlying changes as a result of this, and I guess the first one to note is that in the attributes palette you'll no longer see the dashed line styles in the line thickness menu here. If you want to apply a dashed line style, you'll first have to change the line from solid to line type. And once you do that, then you'll have access to all of the default content line styles, and this can either be via some customized ones that you've created or the standard ones which we're looking at here. Now once you have a line style created, if you look in the resource browser, this is where you're going to see the line types that you've used in your current document. So you'll see a new category here called line types, and here are all the ones that we've used. And if you want to apply one of these, you simply can select the line and double click, or you can not select the line and drag this over an object, and that way you're going to get that style applied. Now let's have a look at the definition of one of these just to understand how simple it is to actually edit them. We'll do this one, the gas one here. So I'll right click, choose edit, and we'll edit the geometry. And here you can see we have just three objects. We have a line, we have some text, and we have a line. It was that simple to create. And let's zoom in a little bit. So I can, if I wanted to move these away so I had a bit more of a gap in here, I could do that. I could do it on the other side as well. If I want to change this word to something else, I can change that. If I wanted to give this a background fill color, I could do that. If I want to draw any other object in here, and I'll just draw a random object, you'll see that they will also appear. So you have a guide here, this grey line, which represents the line that you would draw in Vectorworks. You'll also see that the repetition on the left and right here can be moved. So this will define how close or far apart each repetition of your objects are. So let's now exit out of this, and you'll see that this has now taken on those new attributes. So very simple to edit, and it gives you great flexibility. I mean, how you use it is really just up to you. Whatever you want to put in there, it's going to come out as a line style in your drawing. Interoperability. In Vectorworks 2013 there are 5 new formats that allow you to import and or export to other programs. And really, if you look at the list of import and export options in Vectorworks, there are very few programs that are going to be able to match the extensive list here. So let's go through them. Firstly, Rhinoceros, or Rhino 3D as it's normally known, you're able to import and export Rhino 3D files, and this format has become very common for 3D freeform modeling. We also have Autodesk DWF, which is their design web format, and again this is a format that's quite often specified as a deliverable for a particular project, so being able to import and more importantly export, you're able to then supply files in that format. Being able to export in FBX and Collada means that you can get your Vectorworks models into 3D Studio, SketchUp, Google Earth, and so on. And finally, GBXML, and this one is only in Architect and Designer. This allows you to export a 3D model for energy analysis into programs like Ecotect and IES, the IES suite of software, to do energy analysis, particularly in the design stage of a project, to get some idea of how well your building is going to perform in a variety of different scenarios. Collapsible classes. Quite frequently you'll have class lists that are very extensive in your drawing, and it can be handy to be able to close off classes that you're not currently using or that you don't want to be looking at, and in Vectorworks 2013 you can now do that. You can optionally turn this on and off, and what I'm talking about here are classes that have used hyphens in the name. So if we look at these classes here, this takes up this much space, 5 or 6 lines. If we then mouse down on this little arrow up here, you'll see that we have this new option to have a hierarchical display. If we turn that on, you'll see that the classes are now able to be expanded with a single click. So I can close off the classes that I'm not using at the moment and reduce down my class list to something that's more manageable. You'll see this also in the organization dialog under classes. You have this little button here that will turn that on or turn it off. I think there'll be times when you will want it on and there'll be times when you will want it off, so that little button there will control it in the organization dialog. And this drop down here, for those of you who have Architect, Landmark or Spotlight, you can control it using this option here for the navigation palette. Sheet layer ordering. This is another one of those small but very useful changes. You can now change the stacking order of sheet layers. Best if I just demonstrate it. So up here in the navigation palette, you'll see that we've now got the numbers here, and you're able to just pick one up and drag it to wherever it needs to go. If you only have fundamentals and don't have a navigation palette, well, you can also do this in the organization dialog. You'll see that there's a number field here, and you can pick up and just drag something up or down to the place where you want to have it. Hidden line rendering. In Vectorworks 2013, the hidden line rendering has again been improved from a speed viewpoint, and I think the best way to demonstrate this is to just render a couple of drawings in the two versions. So let's close this down. At the bottom here I've got Vectorworks 2012 drawing. At the top I've got a Vectorworks 2013 drawing. Let's just set these to render in hidden line. Obviously the 2012 one got a little bit of a jump there, but you'll see there is a reasonable improvement in the speed, and it does depend on the file and the settings and so on. So there's the 2013 one finished. And there's the 2012 one finished. So a nice little improvement there, and it will vary, but I think probably you'll get at least the difference that you've seen in these two renderings. The new Windows Explorer plugin allows you to preview Vectorworks files in Windows Explorer. This functionality has been available on the Mac for some time, but now it's available on Windows. So this means that if you're in a view that provides file icons as opposed to, say, a list view, then you're going to be able to see a preview of the last saved version of the file, making it much easier to know which file you want to open. There's been a subtle but significant improvement to the Rotate tool in Vectorworks 2013, and it's particularly useful in 3D, but it also makes it clearer in 2D what you're actually doing. So if we take the tool and make sure that our plane menu is set to automatic up here, and then we select the object we want to rotate, you'll see that under the cursor now is something that looks like a protractor, and this is going to automatically align to the faces in the model. And in this case I want to align it with this face, but also pick up the center line of this spindle, which I can do with an extension line. And you can see now that the protractor is correctly aligned. I haven't pushed any other keys, I've just moved the cursor a little bit, and now I can click to define the rotate point. Then I can click again to define the handle direction, which in this case is going to be horizontal, and now I can rotate the object, specify an angle if I wanted to, say -45, and then do my third click and that object is rotated. So let's just demonstrate that again on the top plate here. So I'll select the top plate and now I can pick that up as my center of rotation. This time I'll go out in the X direction there, and I can now click and drag this around to rotate it. So it's a nice little improvement, I think. Golden section. Since ancient times, I think the Egyptians at least, people have used the golden section or golden mean as a way of proportioning buildings, graphics, paintings, all sorts of things. And in Vectorworks 2013 there's a very simple way now to create rectangles that use the golden section. If you take the rectangle tool and press either the Shift and Control keys on Windows while you're drawing, or on a Mac the Shift and Command keys, then you'll get a rectangle that's in the golden section. So let's go ahead, I'll start to draw and I'll push those two keys, and you can see that it's either going to snap to a horizontally proportioned rectangle or a vertically proportioned rectangle depending on where I draw to. And I can then, with those keys held down, go on and divide up these objects using these proportions. So it's very much easier to get this kind of result where you then can check on, well, depending on what you're doing, the facade of a building, some object that you're designing, or a graphic, so that you get these nice proportions. And when you do create a rectangle by this method, you'll see over here in the object info palette that it says golden for ratio. Another one of our top 10 improvements for Vectorworks 2013 is the Hyperlink Tool, and this tool allows you to link via a little icon here to a web page, to launch an application, to open a document, to open a folder, to activate a saved view, or to activate a sheet layer. You'll see if I select this, I have a couple of options here. One is to edit, and I can also access this dialog by double clicking the link. And here I choose the label. You can see down here it says WD3, so that's WD3 plans, and the function for this is to activate a sheet layer, and the sheet layer name I want to activate is WD3. Over here I can choose the icon that I want to use, so in this case I'm using this one, but there's lots of other ones that are available as well. These are all just symbols, and you can customize these or create your own, whatever you like. So let's click OK and see what happens when we click the open link. Now either I can click open link, or I can hold the command key on a Mac or the control key on a PC and click on this, and it will take me to the link. In this case it's the sheet layer WD3, And on the sheet layer I have two further hyperlinks. One is to our website and the other is to another sheet layer, WD4. Let's go ahead and click this and you'll see that it's taken us to a detail layer. Then I've got one here to take us back to the floor plans layer, so if I click that it's going to take us back. So clicking on those is going to jump between those two saved views. So let's go ahead and create a PDF from this, and this PDF functionality is only in the design series products. So we'll go to Export PDF Batch. We'll choose these two files and click Export, and we'll go ahead and save that, and it's going to open that file. Just zoom out a little bit so we can see the links. So here are the links. This one here is going to jump us to WD4 when I click it. If I click this, it will jump us back to WD3. Obviously a simple example, but you get the idea. And here's the one to our website. So this is going to take you to the OzCAD website, and we'll just turn that sound off there. And if we go back to Vectorworks, you'll see that you get a little report here that how many of the hyperlinks were exported. Obviously you can't export a hyperlink to a document on your computer because a PDF file is not necessarily going to have access to your computer. So you will get a list of the ones that were successfully exported, and if you want to read that in detail, you can click the details button here and you'll get a little text file that will give you a log of what was exported and how it was exported. DWG improvements. There are a couple of significant improvements here as well. The first is that you now have the ability to flatten 3D graphics into 2D, so effectively converting a 3D elevation, perspective, so on, into a line drawing, so that the end user just gets the result and not a 3D model. And the other one is the ability to export true colors or indexed colors, and this is important particularly if you have to deliver your drawings with a particular CAD standard where the colors are important. And if you use the index colors or the DWG colors in Vectorworks, then they're going to go through into AutoCAD, assuming you choose the indexed colors option, with the exact index color names that they would be expected to have in AutoCAD. Let me just elaborate on that a little bit. You'll see here that in the color palette, if I click the option here to open the color palette manager, and we scroll down and look for the DWG compatible colors, if I make that palette available by clicking in this column, and these are all the colors, you'll now see that when I select an object I have the ability to choose from a DWG compatible palette, and these are the colors here, starting with 0 and going across the first line. And you'll note that the first section of colors here are generally the ones that are used to dictate line thicknesses in AutoCAD, so red, yellow, green, cyan, and so on. Another one of our top 10 is the batch export DWG, and this allows you to batch export files to either DWG, DXF, or DWF from your active file, but also from a folder of Vectorworks drawings. Let's take a quick look at that. So under Export Batch, you'll see you'll get a list here of all of the saved views available. Alternatively, if you choose the select folder option, you'll be able to pick from the saved views or the sheet layers in a number of Vectorworks files, and you can move them over here to the right hand side, and then you can export that. You can also save these as a set, so if you've got different projects where you're exporting different groups of files to different consultants, then you can use the save a set and manage sets option here.